So firstly, Aditya, thank you so much for joining us here. I know you've actually come down from the US for a couple of weeks, for a few functions, meeting friends and family.
All my friends are getting married, so that's why I'm well here.
That's amazing within a couple of weeks, so that's really nice. But the best thing is, thank you for taking the time to connect with us, to be a part of this ecosystem and share your insights and inputs with the startup grind community in Pune. So before we get started, let me give you a quick introduction about Aditya, very brief, because I'd love to hear more about what you're doing. So Aditya has been in the US. He's in fact been born and brought up in the US, and he's been moving around the US, being involved in different areas. He's done his education from Georgetown University, even George Mason. So great universities, some of the top Ivy League colleges in the US. And he's also worked in the corporate field with companies like Verizon and Yelp and been supporting their marketing teams. But it's not that he was just a part of corporate. I think he's always had that entrepreneurial streak, because even when he was working a corporate job, he was also supporting other businesses and startups with their growth plans in the US. So I think, having looked at his LinkedIn profile, I think he's taken that dedicated entrepreneurial plunge with started up New York City, now that he's completely dedicated to it. So would love to hear more about you and your experience.
Startup, yeah. So startup was an idea that came from me and my co-founder Nico and another co-founder that I have, Josh. I was working with Yelp at the time, and these two boys were also. Josh was an editor for Ralph Lauren, and Nico had his own digital marketing company. And we realized that New York is a very competitive space, but the people don't realize that Silicon Valley is not everything. New York gets ignored because New York has an industry for every industry, right? But the tech industry in New York is huge. And I was always a follower of TechCrunch and all these other platforms, but I felt like startup ecosystems need local help, and most startups in New York are somehow managed to get funding for at least their seed round. They definitely have an angel round, but definitely a seed round, and they have money to grow, but branding and web marketing and development services are very expensive in a place like New York. And to be honest with you, I know a lot of people have asked me about getting US clients, but most of these startups and their founders prefer having their teams right there, at least at that stage. At a stage where they're scaling, maybe at that time they might have their international centers or whatever. So we realized that we need to create this community in New York and bring them together. And that's how Startup was born. And based on all the clients that I had in the past with my first startup, we realized that startups need exposure, and it's not easy for everyone to be published on big publications like TechCrunch, for example. So we wanted to localize marketing for startups and take like a press release approach, because press releases help with SEO more than PPC now. And it's very competitive in the US, and startups are spending crazy money. So even for like search engine optimization and management, we take a press release approach. So we formed Startup NYC as a publication to just promote startups that we truly believe in. And then we launched Startup as a parent company that services these startups in the New York ecosystem. And then we have an investor network and a talent network and a startup network, which we're building, and we have events every week. And there's like 80-100 people. It's awesome. And we're growing this network to form our own accelerator in 3 years. So a startup can come to us and we make sure they stay with us for 1 year. We help them through the development, marketing, branding primarily, and then make sure they get funded for the next round. So that's our 2020 plan as of now. So that's it. I mean, we once the idea was formed and we perfected the business model, we realized we want to localize it. So once we perfect the New York model, we'll move with Startup DC, Startup Boston. I don't want to compete in California. I don't want to get stuck in that race. So yeah, the ideation took like about 8 months. I still had my job at the time, and the moment I thought that this needs full attention and I'm getting a lot of attention from people, we just launched the company and I quit my job and my co-founders quit their jobs, and now I'm the CMO and Nico is the CTO. It's funny because Nico has done law and then become a developer. and I studied computer science, but I got into marketing. And then our third co-founders are at internship because he's in charge of like content creation. So we have clients, rollover clients and stuff like that, and then we're also hiring over there. So now we have 4 developers there and 4 writers. The founders are not taking salaries yet. We start taking salaries in November, so I'm waiting for November. And we have certain plans in different aspects of the thing, but right now we are most excited about Ascent conference, which is this year's biggest tech conference in New York, and we got sponsorship for that. It's on October 3rd and 4th on the pier in Manhattan. So that'll be fun. And TechCrunch Disrupt didn't come to New York this year, so we got the same contacts and same investors and put this thing up. So it's just been, we launched in November last year, so it's not been that long, but the success is there and it's good.
Great. One of the important things you just mentioned is for businesses or clients to do business in New York, they prefer having someone locally.
Right.
And New York is a hub for, like you said, all industries there. So one of the quick things, the thing here is, it's a classic chicken and egg situation.
Right.
What comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Right? Do you start a business and then hunt for clients, or do you get clients and then set up a business? So Startup New York City has had paying customers since inception. So what would your advice be with regards to the chicken and egg situation in general?
So transparency is the most important thing, I think. You need representation over there for sure, and usually companies from India get someone that they know to represent them or whatever, but I'm all for diverse teams. We live in a very global world, and I think teams need to be more diverse. So when you're looking for representation there, it should not be one person. You should probably try to figure out a sales team, and I don't think they should be Indian, for sure, because it's worked for me. We're humans and we connect with different people. Different people connect with different people, and I think when you stick to a certain ethnicity or a certain group of people in your team, then somehow when people don't know you or your company, they kind of judge you. Like they judge you as an Indian company that I'm outsourcing, And I think it's time that we have to change that, And that's why we focus on having a diverse team. In fact, whether it's in terms of even gender. Unfortunately, 2 of my other co-founders are men. That's fine, but we're trying to hire equal, men and women and people that are from different ethnic backgrounds and languages and stuff like that, because that breaks all barriers, I think, in business. So I think that's the most important thing. And all of you guys ask me about representation and how to break it, and I can help you guys with that. Obviously, I can't represent you guys, but when I come across someone and you guys tell me more about your companies individually, I can suggest people that could be your sales over there. And I would definitely go with a very diverse approach and someone that obviously can understand your product well, but just because we are in India now, I don't think we should have an Indian represent us in the US. That's what I feel personally.
Okay. So what it brings me to is having a presence is understandable, right? And New York is one of the most expensive cities in the world. I'm not even talking just of the US, right? I'm talking it being one of the most expensive cities in the world, like Mumbai, right? So the reason why we can correlate is instead of setting up base in Mumbai, people would prefer doing it in Pune, right? Similarly, instead of New York, you see a lot of companies setting up base in New Jersey, to a certain extent, right? So how would you recommend startups that are looking at actually setting up a base locally to offset the cost or really be able to save money even when they have a local presence in New York?
So I would definitely just suggest, depends on how many people you need out there, but don't get a space in New Jersey because the business happens in New York. The business happens in Manhattan. Even when I was starting my startup, I thought I'll service the Brooklyn market or something like that and start there. But my first client was from Manhattan and that's it. You need office space in Manhattan. I try to work from home as much as I can, but now I've got a deal where this co-working space, Tech Hub, is offering us free office space for 7 people in Midtown. So I go there. I'm going to go there only for meetings, but my team, my writers and all those guys are there, which is great. So I would take the co-working space approach. If you're hiring 2-3 people, put them in a co-working space in Tech Hub or WeWork, because you will get clients right there. Second thing is you get access to their databases, so that's even better. Even if your person is there for 2 months, you get access to their database, you just scrape it, and you can cold email companies and pitch them and different stuff. But yeah, I mean, and then these places have events with us and stuff like that every week. So you're going to meet your guy there, or person there is going to meet a lot of other entrepreneurs and other companies. So instead of having, in fact, a solo office, co-working spaces are best. And there are individual memberships that are pretty cheap. Like you can get a 1-person 20 hours a week membership for like $125 a month. That's nothing. That's cake. It's like 7,000 rupees. So I think you should invest in that and let your person be in the heart of it. Or even if you have 5 people, let them be in the heart of it. That's more worth it. Having less space in Manhattan is more worth it than having space for 20 people in New Jersey.
Great. I know based on what you're saying, I'm kind of going and talking about a lot of details as to what one can do to grow. But I forgot to actually talk about the basics earlier. So let me start with the basics, right? The first questions any entrepreneur faces are, where do I get started, right? I mean, there's so many things to take care of. Of course, the entrepreneurs are so busy with his or her business, core services, solutions, products. And then there are these other ancillary things that they need to take care of, such as legal, incorporating the business, their banking, a lot of these other factors. So how would you recommend them getting started? Because first thing is, entrepreneurs know where they are, alright? That's a new market for them, New York. So for them to even get started, they need someone they can trust, right? Trust is so important, whether in getting business or anything else. But where do they get started? What do they do first? Incorporate the company, get a bank account, because it's no easy task traveling from Pune or anywhere elsewhere to New York City and spending the money unless you know who you can trust, who you can reach out to, and what you should do. So for these basics, what do you think an entrepreneur should do?
I think you should wait with incorporating a company and all that. There's no rush. You need some form of proof of concept before that. I think you can do some business without really incorporating the company. It's not hard and fast like that. You can wait. I think a new entrepreneur, if your product is ready and you feel like it's even if it's your MVP, if it's strong, I mean, you have to have a strong MVP now. A lot of apps and some of my clients build like really BS stuff, and they're like, okay, now we're waiting for funding so we can build more. You're never going to get that funding to build more. No. We're in an age where that product has to be amazing. Your beta has to be as good as anybody else's alpha. Right? So I think you start with gaining contacts in whatever market you're going to, whether that's verbal or in person. And if you had a product here that's worked here and you're bringing it to New York, then I would say you start with events and stuff like that. But what's more important, if you don't have a product yet, or if you just have a product but no proof of concept, then I think you have to work hard on your business model and do a lot of research. Because a lot of times people don't even know that there's a product that exists that does the same thing in another country. And now the world's become so connected that it's all global. And the other thing is, you have to have a very well thought out timeline for things, because even if your product meets your product market fit and it's gaining customers and doing well, you have to have a set plan as to when you're going to scale, because we are in a world where you don't get patents that easily in like general development mode, maybe in AI and stuff, yes. So someone who has resources will come from behind, build the same product but better, and just kill you. So I think you have to start thinking about all of that, and then when you're sure of that, then you can start incorporating the company and all of that. But there's a lot of thought that has to be put in. Like it took us, we're just a service-based company. It took us 8 months to build our model, and then of course, then we got success sooner because of that. But those 8 months also count for me. I took 8 months to actually plan this service-based business on, because I wanted even that to be different from other service-based businesses. Right? But yeah, I think you have to think about your timelines and all of that before you start incorporating and like actually, doing business, for sure. Because you can get killed anytime if you don't set your timelines right for scaling and what happens when you meet your product market fit? Like, how many more people do you hire? All these questions should be answered if you're a confident businessman and you think you're going to reach them.
So, so maybe to simplify it for our audience, if I were to ask you, instead of the top 5 things, let's say maybe the steps in which they should plan for the top 5 things. Like, what is step 1? What is step 2? Step 3? Then what would you recommend?
I think step 1 is making the team is the most important thing. Making sure you have a team that has capabilities so that you don't have to depend on anyone else. So if you're a tech company, you have to have technical co-founders. And I've seen this with clients not having technical co-founders and getting their services done in India, and they struggle in the US when they come there, really struggle. So team is most important, and if you're going to need anyone else along the way, whether you have the capability to hire that person or make affiliations or give equity or whatever it is. And make sure, if you have 2 or 3 founders, this is very important, make sure you have like your own agreements, operations agreements done. Because I've seen a lot of businesses fail just because of like people not agreeing with each other and founders leaving, and then someone's suddenly looking for a new CMO or CTO, and that just creates a mess and all the timeline has to give up. So I think fix your team, then together agree on a business model that's going to work and work on it. Definitely have mentors, send your pitch decks and models to other people, get advice and perfect that model. And then 3, I think you decide what the first step is, and one step at a time you set a goal like what are we doing? Okay, we're serious now, we're in business. What happens in Q1? What happens in Q2? What happens in Q3? And at the end of 1 year, where do we have to be? And just start with that meditation.
Thanks. One of our members here actually brought a very important point to the picture that many of us forget to consider. We would love to do business in different geographical areas, in the US, in the UK, in Europe, in Australia. One of the main things he brought up was the cultural difference aspect, right? How we do business is so different from how someone does business in Europe, how someone does business in Russia, how someone does business in China, right? So how should someone prepare to take care of that cultural divide or difference when they getting into a new market or looking to really expand their business services in that market?
So I think first, a lot of cultural exchanges are important for you to understand that. So definitely network with people around the world, however you can, by email or phone calls or whatever. There are associations in New York. Even I can get in touch with people, but definitely it's important to have those exchanges and business-related conversations with people from different cultures and different countries. And we are connected enough to have those now, so there are ways. I think it's important to make, if you can, then make the founders at least have to make trips and attend at least one big conference or event in the year. And that's the best way to do it, because like 1,500 to 2,000 people attending it, different cultures, different businesses. I think the best way to gain that knowledge and apply it is to actually talk to people from other countries. I don't think there's any better way than that. So when I started my business, there's this application. It used to be an app. It used to be a Chrome plugin. Now there's a website called Hunter. I don't know if any of you guys heard of it. Yeah. So Hunter, I used to just grab emails from Hunter. All the executive emails from whatever company, I grab them from Hunter and I email. I don't email any gatekeepers. I just email a person in charge. If that person doesn't respond, it's fine. My time is not wasted. So we have cold emailed like 1,000 people in the last 1 year. Oh, maybe even more. So and some people are receptive. If you're just transparent, you don't send these guys a long email, like not too long, because these guys are busy. But like a short paragraph or whatever, get in touch. And I've had calls with people from important tech companies that have been funded, that are on Crunchbase funded, just for advice, or I've even gained 1 or 2 clients. Like Lemonade, this AI insurance company, I gained the client completely like cold email, then a call, stuff like that. So I think whoever you think you want to do business with, you find on the web or whatever, just find their emails and email them up. Even like executives, you can get them to be advisors and stuff like that. A lot of people are open to it. Just that we are too scared to email them or get in touch or already feel like this person won't respond, it's too important. But that's not true. If you get in touch with them directly, a lot of people, at least 30 to 40% of people actually respond. So, the subject line should be cool. It's the most important thing. Like, think about the subject line.
So you catch their attention.
Yeah.
Great. There was this thing you mentioned, like there's so many companies in your network that really had very poor ideas and they still became successful.
Yeah.
And we know that there's so many amazing companies with great ideas that unfortunately, for some odd reason or the other, fail.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that? Like, what would you like to share with us? Because this is a really important topic.
Yeah.
There's so many great ideas, there's so many great products that already exist, but they're just failing to maybe launch or they're failing to scale or something like that. What factors do you think they should really bring on board to get successful there?
Yeah, I think, there are companies that have amazing product that fail because they are managed well. And there are companies that have really bad product and they do well because they are managed well and marketed well and branded well. I always said this, that you can actually sell a really bad product for some time if it's marketed and branded well. And you can never sell a good product even if it's not marketed and branded well in today's day and age. Sometimes by chance some products may even do well that are not good. But if a company, a lot of companies come and go because they don't plan long term. They don't have like a long term goal. They just like foresee like 1 or 2 years, but they don't have a serious long term goal that they're working towards. And a lot of them want to just make money quick and exit. I think product is the most important thing, of course, but your branding and your marketing has to be on point on a world scale. And it's tough to achieve that because everyone's doing that. And everyone's doing search engine work and everyone's doing the same thing. So it's become more competitive, but you have to find a way your branding and marketing both are unique and your marketing is done daily, which is still something that many companies don't do. But you have to be on point with your web work and marketing daily. And if you can't afford it at that time and you want to hire a marketing co-founder or whatever and give them equity, then that's that, but it's important. And I keep telling people this because a lot of people just focus on product and think about marketing way later or don't even start marketing. They're like, you need to start marketing later on. But we're in an age where marketing has to be thought about from the beginning. In fact, your product also has to be influenced by the marketing side.
Great. So many people think that money plays a very important factor to really reach the next stage or be successful. So many startups always, at the onset keep thinking about funding, right? Funding is like the main objective. If we get funding, this is what we're going to do. If we get funding, that is what we're going to do. How important do you think funding is to the success of a startup?
I don't think it's important. It depends on your model. So I, as a person, don't like loans and that kind of responsibility. I wanted to be my own boss completely, and that's why I didn't take the funding route. I know investors, but I'm building my own accelerator to fund other startups, but we don't want any money from anyone. We're not interested in investors for our service-based business. It doesn't make sense. And we don't want to make any application of our own as such or any such project. So that's me, So I think before you as a founder start thinking about funding, first think about what kind of person you are and what you'll be comfortable with. Because some investors can be really annoying. It's pretty much like bosses or worse. And it is a responsibility. I see it as a loan, in fact. Also, for example, when you start funding stages, like you have your angel, whatever, you have your seed, right? Deciding how much you want in your seed is a very important decision again, and you have to think about 100 factors regarding that. If me as an investor and I fund you in your seed round, right? You're funded, you move, you work. Now it's time for your Series A, which is your next round. If I don't invest in your Series A, your portfolio is screwed. because I had invested in seed, so I should also have belief enough in you further to invest in your Series A, so other investors will come and invest. So there's that as well. There are many factors in terms of funding, so you have to be ready to deal with all of that. Just getting funding is not going to solve your problem at all in this tech space.
True. Thank you for that. By the way, could you share some examples? I'll come back to that point, which is poor, ideas have become successful and successful ones have failed. Could you maybe share an example or two with us about such startup stories?
Yeah, definitely. So I can't name them because some of them are my clients. So, but whatever. So I'm recording, so I can't name them. I've signed a clause. But there was a startup, for example, from India. So I'll give you like an example that you can relate to, from Bombay, and the founder came to New York on a tourist visa completely, and figured out a way to market their startup through NYU alumni, because it was an application that the students could use for whatever activities and stuff like that. And then her other co-founder, and both co-founders are not technical at all, but they have an application which is built in Bombay, right? And really bad app, right? I mean, really bad. And even there, I mean, when I was told it's beta, I was like, okay, it should have been a better beta. But then in a couple of months, I was told that we've revamped, and I saw the app and I was like, wow. It's not even possible. But so these guys have been hanging out in New York for over a year now, I think, and their marketing game is on point, right? So they are everywhere. They are sponsors of every event. They're all over. They have like interns putting up stations in different conferences and all of that. Like such an amazing marketing game. I haven't even seen it in like that kind of bootstrap startup. But product is not good, and they've had and the thing is, because of the marketing itself, they gained like about 10,000 users, that don't use the app and have downloaded it. But so that's one example of not doing things right and not having technical co-founders, and the marketing was great, but the product can't be that bad, right? And this person meets a lot of investors during the week, and they are down to invest as well. But once they see the app, they can't, because we are in a time where you cannot give that excuse and be like, when we get the money, then we will improve the product. No one's waiting for that. There's too much going on. So there's that example. The other example is someone else who came from India, actually studied in New Jersey, built 4 applications. And the MVP is so strong, and this one I can name because I'm praising them. So it's this application called Savor, and what they do is they deliver not only food, restaurant food, but also they give home chefs opportunities to deliver like homemade meals and stuff like that. Plus, you can book bartenders and chefs to come home and cook for you, and they can put their own RE there. Then they have their own delivery service called Ulix, which delivers the food, and they don't do any. It's not like Uber, so they don't do the cab thing or whatever. This is like a delivery service, their own, for this application. So they built 4 applications for this, right? And they take only 93%, so all these people can work for them and stuff like that. And they've almost now raised their first round, and the first round is going to be $1 million, right? So then they'll scale after that. I think they will be a success story for sure. But this is like having a great, product, and then she hired a CMO that's Italian, and then her other CTO I think is Spanish. I've spoken to her. I think it's Spanish or one of the South American countries, and she's very Indian, very much Indian. And 3 of them together, along with some family friends, helped them in the initial stages, but she's still doing a master's here. The app is ready and almost funded the first round, and then multiple offers on the table. So that's another story.
One of the things is, we see startups, start with an idea, right? And we so very well know that change is the only constant, right? So they pivot based on the actual feedback that they receive. Sometimes they're able to kind of latch onto that, like one of our attendees here just said, they started off as a services company, but the business itself is taking them down the route of being a product company, right? And it's very rare to be able to do that, right, or get an opportunity. Many companies actually jump on the bandwagon, change, become really successful. Some unfortunately lose that direction that they had and fail, while some are a little hesitant to even make that change or get on to making that change, right? So, any thoughts on if an opportunity comes your way to change your business model or your service offerings? Your feedback with regards to what they should really consider or should do, because in New York City, you will get so much of feedback from different angles and different people and different industries. And you start thinking, what, this person said it, they're really great, let me try and do this. Or that person said that. How does one decide in what they should do, and what do you recommend they should really do with regards to change?
So you should. So for me, for example, I was planning on changing my plan if I would not be able to generate more revenue and give my founders a salary by this November, right? Which my family also knows. That's fine. So that's a different thing. But if you have proof of concept, like I do, I have great proof of concept. So I'm not leaving my idea and I'm not listening to anybody else. I want to stick with my team and do my thing. But the most important is your team. And if you decide, okay, in 2 years, if you don't have proof of concept, we're going to make some changes. At that time, gather the people, gather your mentors, advisors, people that you really trust, and you build connections with over time, and then get advice and see how you can change. But try to keep the same team. If the team has to be really strong, then you can do whatever. Like I want to be able to say to my team in 5 years, if you want to change everything, I want to be able to talk to them and be like, alright guys, now let's do this, or now let's do this, or whatever. But it should be like all together, like everyone should be for it. That's more important.
True. So let's talk about companies going to the US, startups in India.
Yeah.
They go to the US by themselves, or like you said, you're more than happy to make introductions or connections based on if there is something mutual benefit, or if you know that someone's in that similar space and could benefit from each other's capabilities. That's number one. The other thing can also happen where companies from the US are looking at setting up a presence in India. So that's also another way to collaborate, right? Because not only are you supporting companies from India or elsewhere in New York City, but you're also supporting them vice versa. Because as you mentioned, Saver, they would also be looking at creating that similar model, launching it in India, right? But if someone already has a presence here, in this kind of a situation, what is startup New York City's approach or support or just your thoughts and advice for organizations either going to the US or from US coming to India?
So if you're going to the US, I mean, if you're going to go by yourself, then you'll need a lot of bankroll because it's going to take time. I would suggest finding someone over there, and my company can help anyone find someone if they're looking at your specifications, and we'll look over there. But find a co-founder that's local, that has experience and knows people and networks well and goes out for you every single day. Like we go out every day. I meet 80 people every day because tech events in New York are insane, right? Like once a month our tech conference that we have, the Invite Tech conference, it's like 500 people in the theater. And then there's like demos and stuff like that. So it's great. So having local representation is the best way to do it. If you find a co-founder in whether he's your CFO or CMO or whatever, depending on the skill set, and you offer them equity, that's more than worth it because and someone diverse, that's more than worth it. I think that's the approach you should take rather than trying to go there and figuring things out. Plus then registrations for you will be easier. Delaware is probably the best state to register your company in terms of taxes. And if you obviously find someone from there, you'll be able to just be a second name or whatever, have your partnership agreement, but you have someone that's American, so registering the LLC or an S Corp, small corporation, will be easier. So don't waste time in the legal processes. Of course, if you're the type of person that's too greedy and doesn't want to give away equity and all that, you can go ahead and figure all that out. Hopefully you'll luck out and figure it out and get stuff done, but I think it'll be a longer process in today's day and age. The best thing to do is scout for a co-founder that's local wherever you want to take your business to.
Great. So my question is, Pune is known as the Oxford of the East, right? I mean, there's a record number of colleges and educational institutes in Pune.
I think the most number of engineering colleges in one city in the world, I think.
I believe so. Yeah. I wasn't sure of that, that's why I didn't say if it's a record.
No, it's true. One city, most number of engineering colleges in one city in the world, Pune is number one for that.
True, and we've kept hearing it since ages, like Pune is the Oxford of the East. So, what would you recommend, the ecosystem here to capitalize on something like this, because it's very rare. In the US, you'd find towns and cities, not cities, towns or different smaller cities based around the university, right? But over here in one city, you get access to so many different resources and so much talent. So, how do you think, or how should one actually take advantage of this kind of an opportunity?
See, the only thing I'm not well versed is the college credit system here. For us, over there, we have interns from NYU and we offer them college credits. So they do 3 months with us in the summer and they get 3 credits. So they have to take one less class, which is huge, right? For any student, one less class, that's amazing. Here, I don't know if colleges do this, but you can reach out to them and see what they can offer. So get these guys while they are in college to work, because let's face it, like everyone who's in college is just passing time other than that. Right? So yeah, that's one way. But definitely if you're hiring, so for us, our first priority when we started was to get employees and pay them. We didn't want to pay ourselves soon enough. And whatever money we don't pay ourselves, we need it for reinvestment, that's the reason. And in November, we plan to start paying ourselves as the founders. But all my writers are getting paid. The interns, they're not getting paid directly, but like we take them out for dinners and stuff like that, even for the 3 months that they're there. And do gift cards and other things for them. So if you can draw college students that are like actually, really driven and get them on board and actually pay them in some way, even if it's not that much, because they're still in college, so they understand. That's great, because in India, I think students are very scared of people just using them and stuff like that. So I think if you figure out a way to give back or give them some equity or something like that, trust them. Basically, if you meet someone talented enough that deserves like a piece of your company, even if it's a small piece, just offer that if you can't offer money if you're in a startup stage. I think that's the best way to go about it. You have to lure them in, lure talent in with like some give back. Not just be like, you're going to get amazing experience from this, so you're gaining more. Don't have that attitude. I think India has a population problem, and we need to make sure everyone does well. And I think we have too many colleges and too many, like I just mentioned, too many degrees for everyone to be paid well. And I'm seeing engineers being paid 40, 50K a month, which is not enough now. Even I've noticed, I go out to eat now, I spend 2K in a day. Right? So I think what's important is figuring out a way to generate more revenue to pay these guys. And revenue in your model has to make sense. So for example, if you're a company that's making money, and suppose I'm the CEO, like I can't be making 10 lakhs if I'm a 20-man team and like most of my team is making like 20K a month. Like that doesn't make sense. You have to have like a certain way to that your revenue ascends and makes sense that how it reaches your salary. That's the way people will stick with you, and then you'll have a long-term business rather than something that will last some time. People are in and out, and the team keeps changing. That's not good for any business.
So that reminds me of one of these articles I read about Bill Gates. Like when he started Microsoft and was growing his sales team, his sales professionals were making a lot more money than he was.
Right.
But what he said is, over a period of time, they become business unit owners. And then collectively, then he ends up making more money. But they like business owners, they actually brand ambassadors of the company, and they actually taking it forward. So thank you for bringing, sharing that. One really important thing that we think about when we talk about equity is if someone would actually be able to deliver.
Right.
And if they're not, then they're still stuck with equity. Right? And then how do you get it back, or how do you really negotiate to kind of get someone else on board for that particular role, and that equity really goes to someone that's well deserving.
Right.
So what are your thoughts with regards to equity, giving it, taking it, or whatever it may be?
So your agreements have to be strong. I've not given out any equity to anyone. We're just 3 founders so far, nothing else. Luckily, because we are technical co-founders, so we didn't need anyone in the beginning. And we had marketing experience. So if you build a team of co-founders like that, then you don't need all that. Right? But I think the operation agreement has to be really strong. And you have to consult a good lawyer for that. There has to be some performance driven assent, I guess, in that equity. And you don't give away immediately here's you get 2%. It's not like that. There has to be a step-by-step process and 3 months in, and if you perform like this, then you get this much, and then once you're with us for a year, we'll offer you this much, and have that conversation then. And there has to be a term in there that allows both parties to negotiate based on performance. And show that proof then if someone didn't perform, then you have to prove it. And make everyone sign a detailed contract of what their goals are for that year. I think the legal part has to be taken care of well for that. I've seen this happen. One of my clients lived with, it's like a apartment finding application, and this company has the most brilliant UI. A lot of users, and they just failed miserably, and they still exist, but they just failed miserably because there was so much war over equity for an entire year when they got funded, that the CEO, Steven, he just got after all that happened and everything got cleared out, he's become so scared of making business relations. He doesn't trust anyone, So that it can really destroy a founder's, foundation. I would say once business gets messy like that. So definitely it has to be very clear and cut and from the beginning, so people can't fight over it all the time. And actually one of my partners was partnered with them in that business, and he exited it. He stayed with him till the end to help him, and then he just exited. So and then he kept the relationship well, so later on we got him another client. But so everything has to be clear and cut, and any money that you have to spend on a lawyer, spend it. Or find a good friend or make connections. In New York we just make connections and ask people whatever we want. I've never paid a lawyer in my life.
Wow, that opens up a lot of questions on the lawyer front.
Yeah.
But I know I'm running out of time, and there are a lot of questions which the audience would like to ask you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you 3 final questions. What are startup New York City's future plans, especially with regards to Pune?
With regards to any international city, we're only interested in companies that want to bring their product to New York City, and if they want us to market that product in New York City, and then we'll obviously vet the product company and we'll do our research and tell you whether it's even worth it or not, right? Just because we're getting that company as a client or having whatever arrangement with them, we're not going to tell you to come to NYC. If we think you shouldn't come to NYC, we'll just tell you shouldn't come to NYC. But that's the only thing as of now. When we do Boston, DC and other things in the future, then we'll see. Right now we're only interested in companies from any international city that want to bring their product to the New York City consumer market, not B2B and stuff like that. If you're a service-based company, great. You can email me and stuff like that, and I can help you with whatever. If you're looking to find a local co-founder there that represents you, there are people I meet in many meetings that there's this one guy that I meet in every conference, and this guy represents 120 companies. It's insane. So, and a lot of them are in Bangalore and stuff like that. And he's not even Indian, he's like an American guy. But yeah, so if you're finding if you're looking for a representative, you don't want that guy because he has a lot of pricing options. But you should find a co-founder there, and I can help you do that.
Great. Second last question. Your thoughts on work-life balance?
See, this is the reason I wanted to do my own thing. Now I wake up, me and Nico want to play tennis, we play tennis. Surely we work 11 to 12 hours a day, But I work when I'm most focused, and just after waking up, the first thing I want to do is what I want to do, not what I have to do. You know, I'm very passionate about my work, but I need to be in the right frame of mind to maximize time. And sometimes I do more than 50 hours worth of work in 5 hours because I'm just so focused and I'm maximizing. You know, so I like to work less hours, but be fresh and maximize those hours. And on that day, it depends what I'm feeling. If I'm feeling tennis, I'll play tennis. I play soccer once a week as well. I like going out there more than physically doing the work, and I think that's what all co-founders should do. After a certain point, figure out a way to like delegate and find employees or partnerships that whatever they want. Because I think it's very important to go out. No matter how good your product is, without biz dev, nothing's going to happen. And I think our success has come primarily from biz dev. I do a lot of talks, and this is the first time I'm talking about my startup. I usually don't. I talk about like, marketing accuracy or like data auditing and all those things, because I think when you go out and talk about like subjects and give people knowledge, they trust you automatically. So you're not like bandwagoning about what you do and your startup and all that. I think if people think they're gaining knowledge from you, then or perspective from you, then they trust you. So I focus on going out a lot for events, even if they are parties, because you have to do that. Even we have a Monday Sucks party, and it's actually a tech event. Can you believe that? It's called Monday Sucks, but techies go there on Mondays. So yeah, I mean, work-life balance should be there. I think it depends on your personality. My personality says that I have to wake up first, do something that I want to do, and then work. So whatever that thing is, I do that first. Even though I have conference rooms that I can have meetings in the city, I have meetings in my favorite coffee shop, Cafe Regio, which is in West Village, and they have the best tiramisu. So yeah, I mean, I balance it out and I do my thing. I think everyone should work towards that if you're in the startup ecosystem. Don't wake up and get stressed about work or start on something. I think clients also have a lot of patience with you these days. I have clients waiting for me when I go back, we're going to do things. But if you're good at what you do and you build good relationships, that's prime. And I recently did an interview with Authority magazine, and even in that, my main quote that they put on top was like, build relationships, not accounts. I think that's going to give you like a long-term business. If you're thinking, yeah, account se itna paisa aa raha hai, ye, wo, and all that, you're not going to build a long-term business with that. You'll build something short-term, most likely, which will go away. But if you really believe in something, stick to it, have the right work-life balance, and keep your mind fresh. And of course, your family has to support you, so they have to believe in you as well. Like mine has supported me and believed in me so far. They're waiting for me to like do something big, but hopefully I will. I think I will. I'm pretty confident about that.
Final question. In school we always used to be asked, who is a figure that inspires you? And at the onset you mentioned, teams are important, as so is mentors, right? It's back in the day, I remember in school we used to say, Sachin Tendulkar or Bill Gates or whoever, right? But getting access to such mentors, it's very difficult to get these people as mentors.
Yeah.
But you can read their stories now, you can read about them, you can read about the journeys, the failures, the successes. So in this kind of a situation, I mean, what I would ask is, what books would you recommend to us that have really inspired you, or really kind of given some kind of direction or helped you do better? Right. So any books that you recommend?
I don't read biographies at all, because I feel like a lot of people read biographies. You should read them for inspiration and read biographies of people that you have been inspired by. But I think it influences some people, and then you feel like, if I follow this is what will happen with me. But it's not. Everything is relative. Everything's relative. Just because Steve Jobs did something a certain way and I do it that way, I'm not going to gain success. Everything's relative to where you are and what's happening around you. So a book that influenced me was Catch-22, which is a book by Joseph Heller, and it's a war book. But what influenced me about it is like this book actually back in the day came up with the term Catch-22. You guys have heard of Catch-22 situations. And I think that life is all about that. No matter what you're starting, like I'm in this business, I have Catch-22s. Whatever you're doing, you have Catch-22s. And I think once you learn how to solve for those in life, that's when you get success in any business you do. you start with the catch-22 and you keep having these catch-22 situations. If I do this, then this will be fine, but then that will happen. And it's always like that. But once you learn how to be calm through that, whether it's a personal or professional catch-22, I think you can gain success easily. Your definition of success changes as well. Like I feel like I'm successful because I do whatever I want every day, and I'm still passionate about work. That's my definition of success. Now, obviously, I understand that I have to earn a good amount of money to be able to support this, and I will. But as of now, I'm happy, so that's what matters. Yeah. So, Catch-22, read Catch-22 if you want to read a good work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, great. I know all of us are waiting to ask you more questions. But before that, thank you so much for actually taking the time and joining us and being a part of the startup growing community and sharing amazing insights with regards to starting up in New York City and startups in general. So thank you very much, Aditya.